What does the Scarred collection mean to you?
All right. So the Scarred Collection is my first NFT collection that I'm releasing to the public. It's a self-portrait series that I've built out that captures the scars, bumps, bruises that I've collected along the way, along my life's journey. I've always been a very active person and not afraid to make mistakes. And I've carried some of those scars with me. They've made me into the person I am today. And as a model and a photographer, I felt it was important to capture sort of my relationship with my body in space and how that's affected my ability to create art, and then also the lens through which I view myself.
I love that answer. That was really good. Okay. Why did you want to move into the NFT space?
This seems to be the question of the hour. There's a lot of people moving into the space right now, but you always have to think of that age-old adage: if there's wisdom in groups, or you're following the wrong crowd, and you should go the opposite way. I opted to sort of follow the group that I think most people envision as being very, very big, but the NFT space in my eyes is still very young and immature, where there's room to craft your own narrative, be involved in the sort of NFT and Web3 projects that are out there. And I'm a big fan of decentralizing a lot of the decision making and removing some of the gatekeepers that were there previously in the art space. And I think while it's not a one-off solution to solve all of art's problems, I think it's a valuable option for people to explore, or whether or not they incorporate that into their own work is up to them. But it felt like it would resonate with me, and that's why I've opted to move into the space.
So where exactly can I see this project at?
It's a great question. You can see the project in person. I have a gallery coming up in spring of 2022 in the Pittsburgh region. I'll make an announcement on my Instagram with all the details of when and where and what you should show up wearing. And the rest of it will be permanently on the blockchain. I have mine listed on the OpenSea platform, meaning you can purchase in ETH. There's also some other platforms that are out there, Foundation, Super Rare, but being that it was a collection, I felt that OpenSea was probably the best option at the current moment for releasing this project.
Wonderful. Now, if I can't make it to a showing, how can I still support this project?
Yeah, that's a great question. I've really built up a lot of my work through word of mouth, friends of friends, and friends of friends applies on the internet as well. So you're welcome to check out the link that I have with OpenSea to check out the project. You can favorite specific images or the whole collection, and that helps me sort of uprank and gain more visibility in the platform. And that costs nothing, just like you can like things on Instagram or Facebook, and that doesn't cost anything, but it does help me gain a little bit more visibility with the project, being that I am a smaller creator.
Awesome. So let's shift a little bit and talk about some pieces from the collection. Do you have a favorite piece from this collection?
I do. I know some people view their art, and when you ask someone to pick their favorite piece, it's like asking them to pick their favorite child. But this one, I think it does make a little bit of logical sense. So my favorite one is titled Timeline, and it's an animated GIF of, I know, GIF versus GIF, I'm going to get canceled, but it's an animated GIF of all of the scars / injuries that I've had and bumps and bruises, and it's actually sequenced in chronological order. So it's ordered in terms of when I received the injury / when I recovered. And then it goes all the way from, I think, the early 2000s with the bowling-related trauma piece, all the way up to the more recent ones with the scars I have on my eye from getting elbowed in the face. So it really spans the entire gamut, and I think that's my sort of keystone piece that'll be obviously the most expensive to acquire. But I think it's my favorite out of the collection.
It's really cool. It is. And you mentioned some titles there. I love the witty titles that have been applied to these pieces. Where did the inspiration from those titles come from exactly?
So the inspiration for the titles, I wanted to keep things sort of light and a little bit cheeky in terms of how I titled these and how I approached the work. I know some people, when coming from expressing like their experience with pain or trauma, they want to keep things sort of solemn and focused on their experience and how maybe dark or grim it may have felt. For me, these are sort of bumps and bruises I've got along the way. Some of them were incredibly painful, having like dislocated knees, ankles, shoulders, broken bones, scars on my face, stitches, whatever it may be. They all happened when I was having fun, goofing around. So I wanted to keep things light, and I think it was a nice balance between the seriousness of like potentially losing function of one of my limbs, and the sort of fun of being okay and doing it all in jest, and really working towards building up a future where those scars give meaning to the work that I do on a day-to-day basis.
Cool. So you mentioned the duality of having fun and then also having a scar alongside it. I'm assuming you're planning on having more fun in the future. Do you plan on adding any other scars to this project in the future if they come about?
That's a good one. I hadn't actually thought of that. So I don't think I'll add to this collection. I like the 3x3 9-item plus 10th keystone structure we have going on here. But with no doubt that I'll have more scars in the future. I'll have more nicks, bumps, bruises. I will dive into things with both feet, and that's just sort of how I've opted to live my life. So I'll definitely have more scars. I don't think I'll add any to the collection in the future, but that could be something that I examine either across multiple dimensions, so like bringing other people and incorporating their experience with sort of physical scar and healing and their viewpoint on that, and kind of comparing and contrasting it with mine. But I think this collection sits well on its own.
I do also love how aesthetically pleasing it is. So how do you plan on familiarizing the portion of your audience that is new to the NFT space and are kind of charlatans in this world?
Yeah, that's a great question too. This can be a difficult one to answer, in that I think the NFT space is so young that you can be quote unquote advanced or actively involved in the NFT community. I would hesitate to say that anyone is like an expert, just because things change so quickly, and the turnover year over year of like new technologies that are introduced, new players that are involved, whether it's a big art dealer or small sort of grassroots efforts, all of those change on a year-to-year, month-to-month, week-to-week basis. So to claim that you're an expert is really a difficult thing, but I think that the people who will derive the most sort of engagement from the space will be the ones who are actively involved in understanding these new technologies, and working sort of in the trenches. There's that, I believe it's a Roosevelt quote, like the man in the arena can understand sort of like when you're kind of getting those bumps and bruises, you can understand where the deficits are, where the technology needs to be improved. So in working through those experiences, I think you gain a lot of like anecdotes and good narratives that you can use to spread knowledge with the audience that digests your work. And I think it's important to memorialize a lot of that, like we're doing with this interview, in a format that people can look at asynchronously and sort of view you and your work and your brand in a way that is aligned with how you'd like to present yourself.
Such an interesting take on the field. And to sort of cap this little interview off, I'd like to preface this question by saying you are a man who really likes to deep dive into just about everything that you do. It seems like you've certainly deep dived into the NFT space. Do you think you're going to stay in this space after this collection goes out? And do you have any future NFT work planned?
Absolutely. Yeah, I plan on staying here for the long run. I've always been sort of a long-term kind of guy. Whether I will be doing the same thing, it remains to be seen. So I could move into, I recently had a friend convince me to look into doing some video or cinemagraphs, to do maybe moving portraits of people. So I have different projects sort of in the works that I've been thinking about. I have one that's fleshed out that I have a spreadsheet of information put together. It's a diptych project, diptych meaning two photographs that are juxtaposed next to each other to give an additional layer of meaning. So I'm working on that, and I'm actively looking for people that I can shoot and incorporate into those projects. So if you're interested, feel free to reach out on any of my social media platforms. But outside of that, I'm excited to see sort of where this space goes and continue to work to generate more content in this space, but keeping in mind, like, I still want to have a fine art printing business, consulting business, whatever it may be. So this is, to me, again, not an end all be all. It's a piece of the puzzle that I think most people will move into incorporating in the next 3 to 5 years.
Perfect. Thank you for your time.